Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is HD. Welcome back, and I'm here to bring you guys episode 6 of From Paris with Creep, featuring the main star, of course, Stefano. Currently 5-0, has not dropped a game thus yet, and we'll see if he's going to lose this next one against Strinter. That's the next challenger. He's the red Protoss in the bottom right, and people who have been paying close attention to this series will already note that it is the same map, same matchup, Shakura's Plateau, ZVP, and of course we have a different challenger this time. Instead of Grubby, it is Strinter. And so far in the last matchup, Grubby didn't do the best job at taking out Stefano. He definitely gave it a good shot. The War Prison play didn't exactly pan out as he had planned, and one of the notable things about that matchup was a little French conversation that they had at the beginning of the game. Kudos to those of you who have already pointed out that obviously not only can people from France speak French, but also people from Canada can, because Canada was once ruled by the French a long time ago. Or was a French colony, I guess would be the proper way to say it. And if we have any more French coming out from Stefano here, make sure that you guys translate it. I don't think he will though. Strinter is his opponent, and I don't actually have any foreground information regarding Strinter. I have no idea where he's from, no idea who he is. Could be a proxy name, it could be a player on the ladder. We'll just have to see what happens here. We already have GLHF coming out. And maybe Strinter, who is of course the challenger following Grubby, is going to be the one to take a game off Stefano. Now, as we all know, this is Stefano's replay pack. It's very likely here he could have released no losses at all. And the fact of Stefano losing is so rare in of itself already. It's so uncommon to see Stefano lose, especially against a foreigner. So we'll have to see, man. Maybe Strinter can do it. A nice little block right there. And note he wasn't using the shift, hold down shift, right click, and make a path for the probe. He was actually doing that manually. So he was able to get a little bit of a block down, but the hatchery did come up at the same time. We have Strinter going for a Nexus at the natural. And it looks like he's gonna back that up with a photon cannon at the front door. Stefano not mining gas yet, and that's what we usually expect from Stefano and his Zerg versus Protoss playstyle. Stefano is not the kind of player that likes to mine gas early on against Protoss. He actually likes to wait, mine as much minerals as possible, kind of building off the gosh, I forgot his name, Spanishua's playstyle back in a few months ago, actually last year I think, where he actually didn't mine gas at all until he had like 40-50 drones. And it's a little bit more greedy, but Stefano is the master of maxing roaches, and we'll see if he does that or not. And there is an opening for the Zergling, but because of the photon cannon at the front door, that is going to be repelled, and a probe for extra measure at the gap as well. And we have a cybernetics core coming up at the front door at the same time. And a lot of Protosses nowadays opt not to fully wall it off. As I mentioned, he's using a probe to close the gap, and that's because a lot of Protosses don't really like the idea of destroying their own gateway or cyber core just to get out of their base. So that's what Protoss are doing nowadays, and it looks like Strinter has gotten the natural up. He is mining out of both gases inside the main. We'll see what he opts to put that gas into. It's pretty common for Protoss to have two gases mining at this point, though. And here comes that Zealot. I love the positioning on that Overlord, because usually the first unit out in Protoss versus Zerg is not a Stalker, so this Overlord is pretty safe. But around this time, Stefano's probably going to want to start moving that Overlord. He doesn't want to get caught by a Stalker, but at the same time, the position of the Overlord is placed so that I think, well, that's actually not too safe. He could lose it if he's not careful, so we'll see if he moves it at the end of the day. We do have +1 weapons coming up from the Forge as well. And potential timing attack on the hands of Strinter here. That probe might get picked off. Zealot coming to back it up, and that is going to push the Zergling away. Do note Stefano grabbing the third hatchery here, down at the second expansion. And now starting to get that gas. This is what we usually see from Stefano and ZVP. He'll get those gases around the 6-minute 30-second mark, and look for him to start adding on roaches fairly soon. As you guys all know, Stefano the pioneer of that max roach at 12 minute, but as of recently has been able to do it at 11 minutes. And I think we've only seen it one time in this series. I think it was at the beginning of this series that Stefano actually did the max roach strategy. Every other time, it seems like the Protoss have tried to throw a monkey's wrench in the way, like going for Dark Templar. In fact, I think almost every matchup that Stefano has played on this series so far in this replay pack from Paris with Creep, it's been more like, hey Paris, how about some Dark Templar? Even I think, yeah, even Zoc went for DTs as well. So even in the Terran versus Terran matchups that I've casted, he's had some very interesting games. So we'll see if that's what Stringer's going for. We do have a Warp Prism coming out here, and that is a 4-gate Robo, adding on a Twilight Council as well. We might have some quick Blink coming to follow this up. DTs are always a possibility as well. There's another hatchery coming down to the bottom left, so Stefano's claiming the hatchery advantage, which is so important in Zerg versus Protoss, in Zerg versus anything really. You need a lot of hatcheries, and Stefano is gonna have 4 hatches here. The Warp Prism, it's making its way down south. Of course, this is the mobilizing dropship for Protoss, but it crossed paths with that Overlord. So Strinter is not going to have the element of surprise here, and it's very likely that Stefano is going to be able to shut this down. He is actually not mobilizing any troops here, and that's the other thing about going for this Max Roach build is you really don't have that much anti-air. So here comes the Warp Prism dropping down Zealots, but the thing is with the Max Roaches is you're going to have a lot of Roaches, and that can deflect anything that comes out of the Warp Prism. So that's what we had there, and Stefano, of course, researching what do we have here. Melee once again instead of ranged. Haven't really figured out the reason to that. I have noticed, though, that Stefano lately hasn't been making as much roaches. He's actually been incorporating quite a bit of Zerglings, so that makes more sense. And meanwhile, we have +2 weapons on the forge coming for Protoss, as well as Blink from the Twilight Council. And so the Protoss forces are going to have quite a bit of upgrades. You're going to have the ability to blink as well. That's going to give them a lot of mobilization so they won't get surrounded by Zerglings. But Stringer's going to have to be careful here. I've said this time and time again. When you play against a player like Stefano, you do not want to sit back and let him max out. He's already on 4 bases. And his economy is at 76 drones as well. You can see his income over 2,000 minerals per minute. That's a lot of money. And Stringer is going to have to get this 3rd Nexus up. He's going to have to figure out a way to make some damage happen, maybe dish out something into the main here. And we can see that Warp Prism making its way in. At the very least, it's going to get a scout. And it should check the layer to see if it's becoming a hive yet. It's always important to know what timing that hive is coming, but it looks like Stringer kind of did not do that. Could possibly be because he doesn't know where the layer is. He just only saw it as a hatchery, so he didn't want to risk running it in there. Because it might not even be where the hive is being produced. And here comes the Warp Prism going down to the bottom, and it's going to cross over this huge creep path. And really, there's nowhere for this Zealot to drop. It's just primarily being used as a scouting Warp Prism here. And Stringer finally scouts the bottom left-hand corner, and he knows what's going on now. He's going to warp in some more Zealots at the same time moving out in the middle of the field, trying to hopefully distract Stefano. But it's not going to happen, and whoa! Very lucky there that Stringer did not get caught by fungal growth. That could have been disastrous. I mean, he warped in 4 Zealots. That's 400 minerals total. Plus the Warp Prism. That could have been 600 minerals into the toilet if the Infestor had gotten a lucky fungal growth. And thankfully for him, it did not. Stringer now trying to claim the 5th and 6th gas. And 12 minutes, almost 13 minutes into this game, but really no action yet. If we look at the units lost, it's been pretty small so far. Neither side really bleeding at all. And we'll see if I mean, that's obviously going to have to change very soon here, because at some point there's going to be a bloodbath. And it really depends on who initiates it. Stringer, I think, has been able to claim the 3rd, and that's good for him, but now he's got to worry about that tech from Stefano, no doubt going to hive pretty soon. Here comes Zealots, and Stringer warping in quite a few Zealots. Do note they have +2 weapons, and they are shredding the Zerglings here, along with reinforcements coming out of the Warp Prism. Stefano refusing to send the rest of his troops down to the bottom, instead only going to rely on his spine crawlers, and there's a good reason for that. There is a very good reason for that. A lot of Zergs will send their whole army there, but it's unnecessary if you've got crawlers coming already. Might as well save your army in the middle of the map in case that was a diversionary tactic. And even though it wasn't, you know, more oftentimes than not, it's going to pay off. And we see here the Infestors getting the fungal. So at the end of the day, that money did get flushed down the toilet as Strinter loses his War Prism and his Zealots. So the ability to harass and scout now has been thoroughly crushed for the Protoss. And double Spire coming up here. Signature Stefano. We have the Hive on the way as well. Note that the Spires are in time with that Hive to finish. So as soon as the Hive plops, the Spires will have the capability to go into the Greater Spire, which allows them to make the most powerful Zerg ground-to-air unit or air-to-ground unit possible. That is the Broodlord. And we have 13 Corruptors on the way as well, so Stefano really timing everything out quite well. And hopefully for Strinter's sake, he's got more gateways coming, but I don't see a fleet beacon yet. There is a Stargate coming first, and that is a prerequisite to the fleet beacon. Strinter's got to make something happen here. He has to attack. He has to buy time to get his mothership out. This army has not a chance in hell of holding off Broodlord Infestor. And Strinter realizes that. Is he going to be the next person to fall here into Stefano's trap? Stefano looking to go 6-0 in this series. And if he goes 6-0, he's already beaten TLO's record or not yet, but he's one record, 2 games away from beating TLO's. And here comes Stefano coming in with Fungal and a huge flock of Corruptors. He's gonna take down every Colossus, but the force fields from Strinter, a double layer of force fields. I don't know if you guys caught that, but he laid one layer down and a second layer, and his ground troops were able to hold off the ground of Stefano. But the problem here is that was Stefano's real game plan. As long as Stefano didn't lose Corruptors, he can replenish and reproduce the ground troops with ease. That's easy for Zerg to do. The Corruptors into Broodlords, that's what he didn't want to lose, and Stefano traded very well there, I think. He sent in all of his Corruptors, he killed off all the Colossi, and he backed the Corruptors out, and now he's making them into Broodlords. And look, the Zerglings are easily replenished. So I think Stefano actually came out pretty well in there, but Strinter didn't do too badly. He actually didn't do too shabby. I thought he was going to lose a lot more than that. We do have Adrenal Glands coming, along with 3-3, no, that is 3-2, and 1 armor, 1 air, or 1 armor and 1 weapons for the air for Stefano. Stefano really loves to get his Hive Tech upgrades when he gets up there, and he's got everything coming. He's trying to send some Zerglings in here. But that is a diversion for the Infestor Zergling attack at the natural. And Strinter coming back in here now. Is he going to be able to defend? He should be able to, as only a few Zerglings able to leak inside. And these are going to be pretty much scouting Zerglings, maybe a few probe kills. Strinter will probably warp in a Zealot to deal with this pretty soon here. He's actually losing a lot more workers than I thought. And 11 workers, 12 workers. And that's pretty annoying to lose the workers on the gases, because now you've got to put extra time, extra multitasking into putting 3 workers on each gas, and that's always irritating. And it looks like more probes are going to drop here as well. Man, these Zerglings more useful than most Zerg harass units would normally be. When you send them into a Protoss base, they usually evaporate, but these guys have been heroic thus far and finally die. But they died a martyr's death, and they will forever be remembered. They actually, in total, killed off, I think, like 15 or so workers, maybe more. And now Stefano, at 91/59, has a huge army of Broodlords. This is what we really are worried about when we're Protoss and we're facing off against Zerg. That army with Infestors to back up, so difficult to deal with. Strinter will have to rely. There it is. The mothership has arrived. Strinter will have to rely on the mothership, on Templar storming and feedbacks, on the toilet bowl maneuver, where you vortex the Broodlords and then put your Archons inside. And when everything comes out, the Archons try to destroy all the stacked up Zerg units. But Strinter's gonna have to be careful because Strinter's gonna have to be careful because Stefano is gonna finish up Neuroparasite pretty soon. And Neuroparasite will give Stefano the ability to mind control that mothership and use it for his own purposes. So this is a very interesting game, and dare I say, Strinter actually not doing too shabby of a job. The one thing here is he hasn't lost the base. He really hasn't. He was a little slow to expand compared to Stefano, but if you look at it now, he's on 4 bases. Oh, those zealots. Oh no, those zealots. That's like 1,000 minerals wasted. Well, that kind of sucks for Strinter, but that's the risk you play or you run when you send out zealots like that. However, you know, one thing that Strinter's been doing all right is he's got a lot of bases. Not as many as Stefano, though. Stefano at 7 bases. Strinter's only at 4. But, you know what? Strinter hasn't lost a base yet. He hasn't lost too many workers. And, you know, he's got a decent army here. If he can get lucky with his Archons and his Vortex, and he's got to hit the Zerg army when they're all stacked up and just maybe cross his fingers and hope Stefano makes a mistake, then he might actually have a good shot at this. This is a really interesting game. But the more that we wait, really, both players are just stacking up those upgrades. And look at how many crawlers Stefano is making, man. That is impregnable at all sides. You cannot penetrate any of these areas. And look at this, we have a little bit of, if you guys ever played Zero Clutter or Fastest Money Map Possible in Brood War, this is exactly what it looks like, with hatcheries next to each other and larvae stacked up and stored. They are, he's just stashing larvae right now for when he needs it. And if we look at the units tab, let's see how many, he's got 90 larvae saved up. And he's also got almost 4K, so Stefano can remax almost instantly. Strinter also can do likewise. He's actually got a lot of gateways, a lot of warp gates, excuse me. And he can warp out into the field at any time. And it looks like Strinter now moving in, dropping us Templar Storm. That did whiff the main army of Broodlords. And Strinter, you're trying to find an opportunity. He's at 2-1-3. The Zerg is at 2-2 on the air. Spinecrawler wall here. I don't know if Strinter should engage. That's actually a really bad spot and a really good a wall of crawl from Stefano. Just good placement. And Strinter now will probably want to make an attack either through the south side, but no, there's more crawlers there as well. Perhaps the north. There's some crawlers up there too. So Stefano's really got all areas covered here. There are some Void Rays making their way in, however, and Corruption coming down on the Void Rays, meaning that they take extra damage. Stefano's got to be careful, though. He doesn't want to run too close. Good bungles from Stefano. And he locks down a good chunk of the Protoss army. There goes the feedback on the Templars. Very good feedback. And we have bungles going down on the Protoss army again. Strinter actually not looking too bad here, ladies and gentlemen. And he's making his way inwards. Stefano immediately spreading out his ground army, or his air army, and trying to avoid the repercussions of a huge Vortex. Doing a good job at that. Only about 4 or 5 will get Vortex. And it looks like, however, he's going to lose most of his Broodlords in the middle of the map, but remember, Stefano is remaxing so quickly. He's got a ton of units coming out, 9 Infestors, 23 Corruptors. Oh, he just lost the rest of his Broodlords, so to that toilet bowl, but at the same time, Strinter also reinforcing pretty quickly as well. I think Strinter might actually have an opportunity here to take out a couple hatcheries. He's gonna do just that, and not only does he kill hatcheries, but he also kills the units coming out of the hatcheries. All these Infestors in a lot of trouble here. Stefano not paying attention, gonna lose a lot of his units, trying to micro the Corruptors on the right side, and I can't believe this. Strinter actually looking pretty good here. He's still got the mothership alive. Has enough energy for another Vortex if he needs it. This is an incredible game. Reinforcements just intercepting one another in the middle of the map here. Stefano Stefano killed off the mothership. That was a good snipe by him. And a huge blow to the enemy units. Now his Broodlords don't have that much to worry about, and he's going to immediately morph out his Broodlords now that the mothership threat has been abated. But Strinter, seeing those Broodlords coming in, is recalling the Stalkers to try to catch them before they morph out. The Cocoons are coming. Will Strinter have enough time to get over here? He's got Blink, he's focusing down the Greater Spire right now, and here goes his Stalkers. There are some infested Terrans he's got to deal with. He's got a Colossus on the high ground that can roast up those infested Terrans very quickly, but it looks like Strinter's got to pull back here. His Stalkers in a little bit of trouble. They are now out of harm's way. Strinter still killing off the hatchery at the top left. This is an incredible game of StarCraft 2. Both armies just ramming into each other. There's the Storm, but there's so many Corruptors coming in. They just took out the Colossus, and the Broodlords able to wipe out the ground units as well. And it looks like It looks like Strinter has to turn away and run. However, remember, Strinter killing off 2 hatcheries. He killed off 2 bases here. Albeit, they are mined out. They are mined out, yes. But he still killed off 2 hatcheries. That is a blow. Can he remax now? That is the question. He's got 1,600, 1,000. He can certainly make an army. He's going to need to make an army very quickly. He's got another mothership on the way as well. Meanwhile, Stefano coming in here with a huge air force. My goodness. And that is the danger when you face off against a Zerg. He was saving up larva. He had 90-something larva saved up. And that is the product of 90-something larva. Now, what can the Protoss do? The Zerglings are ramming their way in here. And I don't know if Strinter can do anything about this. Those Zerglings are going to crush the probes. Strinter immediately trying to fall back. He gets a good blink. He gets a good blink. He gets fungled, however. Will the Stalkers have enough firepower to kill everything off? It looks like Strinter doing a decent job here. Blinking underneath the Broodlords. Can he kill off the rest of the Broodlords? The Broodlings are impeding the Stalkers' paths. Meanwhile, the Zerglings have killed off the Nexus and any remaining buildings underneath. It looks like Strinter will kill off all the Broodlords. Unbelievable by Strinter. At 323, he's almost maxed out the Protoss armor upgrade, which is not an upgrade we typically see. That's usually if the Protoss goes into the uber late game. But uh-oh, Stefano gonna kill off a Nexus here. And Strinter can't do anything about that, has to lose the Nexus. Meanwhile, don't forget that Stefano still has a base at the 6 and a base at the 12, and he's had it for a very long time. Now starting to main art his workers over into those locations. Strinter trying to remax as quickly as possible, but he is running out of money. Only at 200, 179. And there it is. GG calls Strinter. He just did not have enough money to continue playing this game with Stefano. He just ran out of money, and that's where it all came down to the point where Stefano had 7 bases and Strinter had 4. And I know I made the comment, Strinter hasn't lost a base yet, but when your opponent has almost double the bases you have, you can bet he's mining a lot more money than you are, and he's stockpiling it. That's what Stefano did so well this game, was the stockpiling of money. And larva. Larva is the other essential component to making Zerg units, and Stefano masterfully laid out the foundation to be able to remax as quickly as he needed to. And that was really Stefano's main reason for winning. Now let's go ahead and look at the first big battle here. There's 2 major battles, and the second major battle I think lasted forever. But let's go ahead and re-examine some of these fights. A lot of you guys have been saying out on YouTube that you really enjoy me going through the fights and just kind of dissecting it a little bit, and I have a good time doing it too. This is actually really fun for me. Let's go ahead. I think it was a little bit further ahead than this. That was where he threw away like 1,000 minerals worth of zealots for no reason. And Strinter, I know at some point decides, you know what, it's time to move out. Let's see. Should happen pretty soon here. I wonder if this Warp Prism ever did anything. It doesn't look like it did. I think he just kind of... he actually did try to attack with the Warp Prism at the same time. So let's see what he did with this Warp Prism while that major battle in the middle of the map was going on, or at least he was posturing. Stefano, man, just paying attention at all points. Infested Terrans, goodbye Warp Prism. So here's the first major battle. And at first I thought that was a really bad engagement. That was just terrible. You're not breaking these crawlers down when they're laid out like that. But you know what? Strinter said, try once, hurts my head, but try twice, and maybe next time I'll headbutt through the bricks. And he did try again. This time they'll kind of layering through with a couple of Void Rays, and I like that strategy. Just kind of softening up a little bit everything, and then he goes in. Okay, so I still don't like the engagement per se, but it looks like he had so many forces on the field. And one nice thing I noted is he just finished, I think he finished one of his upgrades a few moments ago. And what he really did well here was he had High Templars in the front. You guys can see these High Templars, the little units with health bars ahead of him. He had 3 of them in the front, and look at how many feedbacks he got off on the enemy infestors. That is freaking perfect. That's beautiful. Really burning most of the infestors. And oh, look at that, he even got that one that was about to fungal. And so he hit most of the infestors, and now really there's no ability for the Zerg to chain fungal. So because of that, all of a sudden Stefano loses a huge portion of his army. It's like 12 infestors or so that are just neutered. They can't do anything at all. They have nothing. So now Stefano has to back up, and there's no chance he can fight off this enemy Protoss ball. So this is beautiful from Strinter, but this is where Stefano's larva production, look how many larvae he had saved up. Watch that production tab as this battle goes on, and how many units he starts to produce. So Stefano, yeah, he loses a lot here actually. He loses the Broodlords up here as well, and Strinter did a really good job of setting his arc on the side. Those Broodlords are down. But Stefano's producing a crap ton of units. I like what Strinter did though. He sent his units up into this hatchery, and he continued to go up into these areas and try to pick off as many bases and do as much damage as possible. What I think Strinter should have done at this point though, what I think he should have done, rather than, oh, that was beautiful by Stefano, by the way, rather than go up into this base and try to pick off so much with all of his units, I think he should have sent maybe some of his units and not all of them, maybe like half of this army, left the other half outside, because if you think about it, most of the Zerg units are going to be streaming out of these hatcheries, and the Zerg is going to reset his rally points to around this area right here. He's going to try to corner in your Protoss ball inside the base. So what Strinter I think should have done is just sent some units to pick off the infrastructure, and then, you know, kept the other units outside to intercept. The only problem, of course, is Stefano kind of predicted that, and he had a bunch of crawlers. So it was really tough, I think, for Strinter to find a point here to kind of come back and win. I think he did all he could, and I'm kind of nitpicking, but all in all, you know, it was a very, very close game. This I love right here, what Stefano did. Sent in a squad of Corruptors, said screw it, maybe he's not paying attention, and guess what? He wasn't. He was paying attention to the Stalkers over here. So he lost his mothership. That was a huge blow as well, by the way. That mothership did not need to die. But yeah, you guys can see here, you know, half of this army at this point should be actually out here. And then you can intercept the Broodlords. You can kill off the Broodlords as they're morphing. So that's the only thing I would have said maybe Strinter could have done differently. But all in all, very, very good game. One of the better ones. And almost making a run, I think, against Stefano. For sure, one thing that he should have done was claimed another base. One of the pocket expansions, maybe both of them, way, way earlier. He was behind in bases almost the entire game, really. He was never really at least one base behind the Zerg. He was like 2 or 3 bases behind. So that really costed him. His last battle actually went really well for Strinter. I mean, this is just a work of beauty. And really kind of Stefano saying, you know what, I can just sacrifice these Broodlords because they're distracting while my Zerglings eat your base apart. But at the end, you know, Strinter almost making somewhat of a play, but you guys can see the supply was drastically in favor of Stefano. Anyways, guys, that was episode 6 of From Paris with Creep. Hope you guys enjoyed. And it looks like Stefano's still on the undefeated warpath. The drums are beating. And will he lose the next game? Will he lose any game at all? We'll just have to wait and see. Game 7, episode 7 of From Paris with Creep is coming at you guys in the next video. HD, signing out.